22.26 Asavati. Monks, before my enlightenment, while I was still a bodhisattva, not yet fully enlightened, it occurred to me, what is the gratification, what is the danger, what is the escape in the case of form or body? What is the gratification, what is the danger, what is the escape in the case of feeling, perception, volition and consciousness? Then monks, it occurred to me, pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on form or body, that is the gratification in form or body. That body is impermanent, suffering and subject to change. This is the danger in body. The removal and abandonment of desire and lust for body. This is the escape from body. Similarly, the pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on feeling, perception, volition and consciousness, that is the gratification. That the aggregates are impermanent, suffering and subject to change. That is the danger in the aggregates. The removal and abandonment of desire and lust for the aggregates, this is the escape from the aggregates. So long, monks, as I did not directly know as they really are, the gratification, the danger and the escape in the case of these five aggregates subject to clinging, I did not claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world with its devas, maras and brahmas, in this generation with its ascetics and brahmins, devas and humans. But when I directly knew all this as it really is, then I claim to have awakened to the unsurpassed perfect enlightenment in this world. The knowledge and vision arose in me. Unshakable is my liberation of mind. This is my last birth. Now there is no more renewed existence. This sutta, there is a more detailed explanation of it, I think in the Majjhima Nikaya. So here the Buddha is saying, what is the gratification, like in the case of body? That means what is the satisfaction in the case of body? He says, the pleasure and joy that arise in dependence on the body, that is the gratification. So in the other more detailed sutta, it talks about the gratification of body is like because the body gives you pleasure. So they say that imagine a young girl, 15 or 16 years old, in the prime of life, looking at the most beautiful. That is the gratification of form. And what is the danger? The danger is that the same beautiful girl, after a few more years, she's 80 or 90 years old, and you see she's hunchback, all the hair turned white, maybe with a bald patch at the top, the hair also, the teeth also gone, skin wrinkled, and looking so ugly looking. That is the danger of form, the Buddha said. And then another example, the Buddha said, suppose this girl, even before she's old, maybe at the age of 40 years old, she got cancer. And then she's stricken on the bed, cannot help herself, seriously sick with cancer. She's lying on the bed, urinating on the bed, shitting on the bed. She got to be helped up to take her meal. You need people to wash her, clean her, and all that. So that time, she's still that beautiful young girl, no more. So that's again a danger. Or the Buddha said, after some time, she will die. And then if she's 3 or 4 days dead, the body will be bloated, blue-black, smelly, and all the liquids oozing out from the nose, from the ears, from the eyes, from the mouth, from the anus and all that. And she's still that beautiful 16-year-old girl, no more. So very soon, all of us, our body also like that. At one time when you're young, you look beautiful or handsome. As you grow older and older, it becomes more and more ugly. And one day you will become sick and you will die. So that is the danger. So the only escape is to remove the desire and lust for the body. Then only you will not suffer. So similarly for the other aggregates. 22.28 Asavati, the Buddha said, monks, if there were no gratification or satisfaction in body, beings would not become enamored with it. But because there is gratification in body, beings become enamored with it. If there were no danger in body, beings would not experience revulsion towards it. But because there is danger in body, beings experience revulsion towards it. If there were no escape from body, beings would not escape from it. But because there is an escape from body, beings escape from it. Similarly, monks, if there were no gratification in feelings, perception, volition, consciousness, beings would not become enamored with it. But because there is escape, beings escape from it. So long, monks, as beings have not directly known as they really are, the gratification as gratification, the danger as danger, and the escape as escape. In the case of the five aggregate subject to clinging, they have not escaped from this world with its devas, Mara and Brahma, from this generation with its ascetics and Brahmins, its devas and humans. They have not become detached from it, released from it, nor do they dwell with the mind rid of barriers. For when beings have directly known all this as it really is, then they have escaped from this world. They have become detached from it, released from it, dwell with the mind rid of barriers. So this sutta is basically, the Buddha is saying, if there was no satisfaction with the body and the mind, then we would not become enslaved, delight in our body and our mind. But because there is gratification or satisfaction or enjoyment to be found with our body and our mind, so we become enslaved by it. But also, if there were no danger in the body and the mind, then we would not experience revulsion towards it. But because there is danger, so one day we wake up and we become we have revulsion towards the body and the mind. All of us in the world, we are like children, when we are young. We are greedy for all the nice things, ice cream, all the things that we can play with and enjoy in the world. But as we grow up slowly, then we find certain things, if we enjoy too much, it makes us sick. For example, we take too much ice cream, we become sick. And all that. If we play too much, then we fail in our exam. So slowly we become wise, as they say, become streetwise. So similarly, in the world also, a lot of things we are not careful, we suffer if we are not careful. So slowly as we mature, then we understand the world. There is enjoyment in the world, but there's also suffering in the world. 22.33 at Savatthi, the Buddha said, monks, whatever is not yours, abandon it. When you have abandoned it, that will lead to your welfare and happiness. And what is it, monks, that is not yours? Body is not yours, abandon it. When you have abandoned it, that will lead to your welfare and happiness. Feeling is not yours, perception is not yours, volition, consciousness is not yours. Abandon it. When you have abandoned it, that will lead to your welfare and happiness. Suppose, monks, people were to carry off the grass, the sticks, the branches and foliage in this Jeta grove, or to burn them, or to do with them as they wish. Would you think people are carrying us off, or burning us, or doing with us as they wish? No, Venerable Sir. For what reason? Because, Venerable Sir, that is neither ourself nor what belongs to ourself. So too, monks, body is not yours. Feeling, perception, volition, consciousness is not yours. Abandon it. When you have abandoned it, that will lead to your welfare and happiness. So that's the end of the sutta. So here the Buddha says, just like the grass, the branches, the sticks and foliage, is not you, it's not yours. Similarly, this body and this mind is not you and it's not yours. How come? Because without your choosing it, this body came into the world. And after you were born, you have no control over it. It grows up by naturally. And then when you're young, you want the body to grow faster, so that you want to become an adult, but it won't listen to you. You grow slowly. And after you become an adult, and you start to become old, at that time you panic, then you want the body to slow down. But you also have no control. Before you know it, suddenly Oh, you're 40 years old. Low Fangan. Your eyes, you cannot read the newspaper anymore. You have to put on glasses. Very fast, isn't it? When you are 20 years old or 20 something, you still think you haven't grown up fully yet. Then when you are 30 something, you think just mature. And before you know it, Lo Fangan has come already, and your eyes telling you that you are growing old already. So that's why life goes by so fast. Okay, 22.43, page 882, at Savati. This translation I don't like so much. It says, monks, dwell with yourselves as an island, with yourselves as a refuge, with no other refuge, with the Dhamma as an island, with the Dhamma as a refuge, with no other refuge. The old translation from the Pali Text Society, maybe because we are used to it, it sounds nicer to me. There it says, monks, be a lamb unto yourselves, be a refuge unto yourselves, with no other refuge. Take the Dhamma as your lamb, take the Dhamma as your refuge, with no other refuge. When you dwell with yourself as a refuge, as a lamb, as a refuge, with no other refuge, with the Dhamma as your lamb, with the Dhamma as your refuge, with no other refuge. The basis itself should be investigated thus. From what are sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure, and despair born? How are they produced? Let's stop here for a moment. Before I go further, you see this first opening sentence is very important. Be a lamb unto yourselves, or be an island unto yourselves. Be a refuge unto yourselves, with no other refuge. That means the Buddha is saying, depend on yourself. Don't go and depend on some famous teacher and all that. Don't depend on any other person. Even if we live in the same room as an Arahant, we cannot become enlightened if we don't depend on ourselves. Just like the simile, if you take a spoon to drink soup or to eat your meal, you enjoy the meal, you enjoy the soup. Does the spoon enjoy? The spoon doesn't know the taste of the soup or the food, right? So in the same way, we have to practice the spiritual path. Then only we will taste the fruit of the spiritual path. So that's why the Buddha says that we have to depend on ourselves. We don't depend on anybody else. But the Buddha at the same time says, take the Dhamma as your lamp, take the Dhamma as your refuge, with no other refuge. So we only have to depend on two things. One is to depend on ourselves, and secondly to depend on the Buddha's Dhamma. Not some teacher's Dhamma, not some any other teacher, but the Buddha's Dhamma. The original Dhamma of the Sammasambuddha, which is found in the earliest Nikayas like this. So here the Buddha says you should investigate from what are sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair born? How are they produced? In others, where does suffering come from? And monks, from what are sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair born? How are they produced? Here monks, the unlearned ordinary person who does not see Aryans, is unskilled and untrained in the Dhamma, who does not see superior persons and is unskilled and untrained in the Dhamma. He regards the body as a self, or self as possessing body, or body as in the self, or self as in the body. That body of his changes and alters. With the change and alteration of body, there arises in him sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair. Similarly, with feeling, perception, volition as consciousness. So here the Buddha says the origin of sorrow, lamentation, pain, despair and all that comes because a person, an ordinary person, does not associate with Aryans, does not know the Aryan Dhamma, does not train in the Aryan Dhamma. So because of that, he regards the five aggregates as the self, or as belonging to the self, or as being in the self, or the self as being in the five aggregates. But the five aggregates must change because it's the nature of everything in the world to change. So when the five aggregates change and he is too attached to the five aggregates, then when they change, he cannot accept it. So sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair arise. That is how suffering comes about. But monks, When one has understood the impermanence of body, its change, fading away and cessation, when one sees as it really is with correct wisdom thus, in the past and also now, all bodies are impermanent, suffering and subject to change. And sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair are abandoned. With their abandonment, one does not become agitated. Being unagitated, one dwells happily. A monk who dwells happily is said to be quenched in that respect. When one has understood, similarly, when one has understood the impermanence of feeling, perception, volition and consciousness, one sees as it really is, with correct wisdom, in the past and also now, all aggregates as impermanent, suffering and subject to change. So if he sees that, then he is not attached to it. Then sorrow, lamentation, pain and despair and all are abandoned. And with the abandonment, he does not become agitated. He dwells happily. It's the end of the sutta. So you see, sorrow and lamentation, all this suffering is born from attachment to the five aggregates, which we take to be the self or as belonging to the self. 22.47 Savati. Monks, those ascetics and Brahmins who regard anything as self in various ways, or regard as self the five aggregates subject to clinging, or a certain one among them. What five? Here monks, the unlearned ordinary person who does not see noble ones and is unskilled and untrained in the Dhamma, who does not see superior persons and is unskilled and untrained in the Dhamma, regards body as self, or self as belonging to, or body as belonging to self, or body as in the self, or self as in the body. He regards, similarly, regards feeling, perception, volition and consciousness as self or as belonging to self, or as being in the self, or the self as being in the aggregates. Thus in this way of regarding things, and the notion I am have not vanished in him. As I am has not vanished, there takes place a descent of the five faculties, of the eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose, tongue, body faculty. There is monks, the mind, there are mental phenomena, there is the element of ignorance. When the unlearned ordinary person is contacted by feeling born of ignorance contact, I am occurs to him. I am this occurs to him. I will be and I will not be, and I will consist of body and I will be bodiless, and I will be percipient or I will be non-percipient, and I will be neither percipient or non-percipient. These occur to him. The five faculties remain right there, monks, but in regard to them, the instructed or the learned noble disciple abandons ignorance and arouses true knowledge. With the fading away of ignorance and the arising of true knowledge, I am does not occur to him. I am this does not occur to him. I will be, I will not be, and I will consist of form or body, I will be formless, etc. All these do not occur in him. That's the end of the sutta. The important part about this sutta I want to mention here is this part where it says, thus this way of regarding things and the notion I am have not vanished in him. As I am has not vanished, there takes place a descent of the five faculties. I mentioned before, bhava gives rise, conditions birth, right? Bhava is this I am here. This descent of the five faculties is the birth. So this sutta, in a way, proves that bhava means this perception we have that I exist, I am, because you feel that you exist, so you see yourself being born in the world, coming into the world. That is birth. I think I'll stop here for tonight. So far, most of these suttas are short. Later we'll come across some longer suttas on these five aggregates. Anything to discuss? Yeah. That means seeing very clearly. You see, when we listen to these words of the Buddha, there is this five hindrances blocking us. So these five hindrances being sensual, desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and worry, and doubt. So because they hinder us, So when we listen to the sutta, we don't see it so clearly. We don't understand it so clearly. For example, the Buddha says, these aggregates are impermanent. And because they are impermanent, they give rise to suffering. That we can see. Then the Buddha says, since these aggregates are impermanent and give rise to suffering, then is it worthwhile to accept it as I and mine? It is not worthwhile. It's not fit to be regarded as I and mine. So when the Buddha says, when a noble disciple sees this clearly, then he is disenchanted with the five aggregates. He's dispassionate towards the five aggregates. Then he does not attach to them, and then he becomes liberated. Right? So the first part, for most people, you can understand that they are impermanent, so they are a source of suffering. But because you don't see clearly enough, you cannot let go. So it's only a person who can see very clearly that you hold on to it, only give you pain and suffering. So why should I hold on to it? Just let it go. So one thing, this not seeing clearly, because we don't see clearly, we are deluded, right? And this delusion is something very hard to see. A fool does not see himself as a fool. A wise man can see another person who can recognize a person who is a fool, but a fool cannot see himself as a fool. No, it applies to all beings. It is something that nature has implanted in all beings, so that you will struggle to survive. Oh yeah, all the Brahmas and Devas. Yeah. That's why in one of the suttas, I think in the Majjhima Nikaya, Magandhya Sutta, the Buddha said, we have been tricked by the mind. For a long time, we have been cheated by the mind. We keep believing the mind. The mind is a very cunning thing. Yes, you see, because for most people, this is all we know. Just like for most people in the world, the only happiness they know is through sensual pleasure. Eat, drink and be merry. That's all they know. So of course, naturally, they will want to enjoy this because they don't know of anything more superior. But when you know of something more superior, for example, you are given the chance to enjoy heavenly bliss. Then when you enjoy heavenly bliss, then earthly bliss you don't want already. So in the same way, we attach to this world of the external world of the five senses, and we take this body and the mind to be the self, because we know of no other self. So we have to go and meditate into our mind. When we go and meditate, and we go deeper into our mind, slowly the body and these six consciousness start to fade away. Then when the six consciousness starts, and the mind and the body and the six consciousness starts to fade away, the world starts to fade away, then only you realize, this body and this mind that I took to be the self is not the self. It's just like when you are in the dream. When you are in the dream, you take that person in the dream to be yourself, and then you are running for your life because somebody wants to murder you, or you see a ghost or something, you're so scared. And then after that you wake up from the dream. And when you are woken up from the dream, then you tell yourself, that was just a dream only. No reason for me to be scared now. That was just a dream. Now I've woken up. So in the same way, we have not woken up from samsara. So we take this body and the self to be mine now, because that's all we know. It's only when we meditate, the Buddha says, we go deeper, and then the world slowly melts away. Then we realize there is something else. So the truth about life, reality, can only be achieved first through the theory part, the Dhamma that the Buddha teaches. The Dhamma teaches us how to practice, and then with the Dhamma as our guide, we make the effort. We make the effort, then we go into ourselves. When we go into ourselves, but you cannot go into yourself without the proper instructions. That's why all the instructions are given in the suttas, because it's not so simple. Just let go and meditate. No, there are so many conditions. You have to keep your sila. You got to fulfill your obligations before you go and practice. You do your family duties and all that. Then after you've done all your duties, then you do the duty to yourself. Because you want thing to help other people, but you have to help yourself. If you think you want to help everybody but you don't help yourself, you are also a fool. Nothing remaining. Nothing remaining. Even all the attachment, they're given up. No more. No more totally, no more attachment. No more clinging. That one you can only understand when you go into your mind. It's not so simple, it can be explained by words. It can be explained by words, and the Buddha explained that everybody become enlightened already. Okay, and here.